Welcome traders to our post-week market review. So jumping straight into things here from where the market opened up, which is this candlestick right here. As you can see, price ended up becoming bullish as we spoke about in our midweek technical analysis video. And as you know as well, we also did a sort of post-week / start of week technical analysis combined last week. So we covered most of this move, but we'll cover it again. So as you can see, the market opened up bullish. Price continued bullish pretty much all the way up until one of our points of interests at around 4,145. From there, price dropped down and continued to test this area as a resistance 3 times before we then saw a break of structure with this enormous candlestick on the hour after the New York session opened up on Wednesday. Price from there pushed all the way up to around 4,210. Price then consolidated on the lower time frames throughout the Asian session all the way up until around 3 a.m. until we then saw some more bullish momentum carrying it all the way up until the New York session start on Thursday. As you can see, we topped out at about 4,243 and from there price ended up breaking structure of this point of interest that was broken previously at 4,175. Price came down back down to our 4,145 level to test as a support on previous resistance, and then pushed back up to sort of double test this same level of around 4,210. And then from there, as we built closer and closer to the London session, price ended up failing at that level of 4,175, and then throughout the volume of the London and New York session, price drove itself all the way down to around 4,030. From there then, whilst it was inside of the New York session, price pushed back up to one of our points of interest, that same level of 4,110, testing as resistance on previous support, indicating to us that we were going to see a continuation of this bearish momentum. So overall this week it's sort of been up and down, all the way up until Thursday New York session. We saw bullish momentum, price creating higher highs and higher lows, consolidating at resistances and having common top side and bottom side supports and resistances, before price then broke structure. We saw that a couple times before we then saw structure fail and we saw price flip. We saw higher highs and higher lows until we then saw a lower low created here, and then a lower high before price then pushed all the way down, creating this next lower low and this next lower high. So what could we expect to see for gold next week? So first things first, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to get our fixed range volume profile, and we're just going to sort of drag it from the start of the week to the end of the week just to get an idea of what is actually going on. So we have our point of control here, which we will mark in. We'll grab 3 bars of data, and we'll just drag that across. I'm going to go ahead and mark that in a nice blue color so we know that that is the value, that is the point of interest. We then also have a value area high over here, and then we have our value area low, which is about here. So a few levels now that we can take into account going into next week, especially at the start of the week. I know the chart looks a little bit messy, and I will do a video at some point in the future where we remark up our charts, especially sort of for the new year. I'll probably keep this until the new year, and then we'll do a fresh start when it becomes January the 1st, 2026, and we'll remark up everything and reestablish where we're at with gold. So back to the topic at hand, where could we expect gold to go from here? So obviously we've seen that big bullish push, and then we've seen this sort of massive bearish correction. What I do want to do, just to get a little bit of information, and remember this is my first time looking at gold with you, so all this is new to me as well. So you can see that the dollar index is still sort of in this like bottom point that we can see. If you recognize this pattern, so price ended up dropping bearishly, we then saw consolidation and price dropped again, continued to consolidate, and then price broke structure and continued on to trade within the week before, or sorry, the consolidation before this consolidation. As you can see, it's tested now. If I go back to gold then and just show you, give me 1 second. We'll go back to gold, we'll go back to hour 1. You can see the same sort of pattern happening here. So we had that consolidation, price dropped again, consolidated, and then price pushed up and moved into the previous consolidation area. So same sort of pattern, but we haven't seen that straight bullish push out of this level. Now, one thing I did expect after we saw this breakthrough structure here is I did expect price to continue at least to around 4,340 to go and test somewhere near the all-time highs. But you can see that price ended up coming to a halt at around 4,245 and just completely dropped off bearishly. Let's go down to our minute 15 then and just establish sort of price action for the last few minutes. So you can see that volume actually slowed itself down, and that's normal when it comes closer and closer to that market close on Friday. You can see that price just sort of slowed itself down. So not real price action in terms of normal market movement for gold, but there is one thing that I will say is we have recently rejected off of previous support as we established, and we have now made this low here. Obviously we're going to have a nice bit of liquidity resting below this low, and so something definitely to look out for. But if we're going to go sort of just focus on this move here, what could we expect to see? So if we expect what we can visualize here, we're going to expect price to go and sweep these lows. That's pretty much it. If we just look at this overall sort of move, we ignore any of the data from over here. So that's sort of what we're going to expect there for gold. If I go ahead and go back to our hour though, you can see that we have created this low. Price has tried to push back down to test that low again. We have seen sort of the last 6 hours before market closed bearish. So there definitely is a possibility that price pushes down to one of these levels around here. So sort of price pushes down, either tests at this level and then begins to consolidate before we then see that major push up. If we do see a significant push, sort of if we see the same sort of move that we saw here, where price broke these highs here, then we'll expect price to push back up to around 4,175. Price could drop down and find support at this level here, do the same sort of thing, consolidate potentially between these 2 points of interest, one of our points of interest and a value area low that we just established using our fixed range volume profile, and then price could shoot up. However, this level here, these levels here are going to be the sort of that fail safe. If we see price come to this level and then sort of wick back up, the same thing as we saw here, we could expect that bullish move to continue. However, if we see price break and sweep this liquidity, we're then looking at around 4,005 to hold as support. If price does break back into this level, it's highly likely that price does continue sort of into the late 3,000s, potentially sort of up to around 3,850, give or take. So there's a lot of stuff that could take place for gold right now. So there's not actually much to go off in terms of overall bias. I think we need to sort of wait for market open and see how the market actually plays out. If I go to our daily time frame, you can see that that bearish drop wasn't actually too significant. So you saw the you sort of saw the start of week bullish, and then Thursday and Friday bearish. But you can see that the daily candlestick did in fact start wicking itself up. So when we look at the daily time frame, we could expect to see this next candlestick open and completely wipe out all the data that was inside of this candlestick here, giving us a bullish engulfing pattern. And then if we see price break these highs here, we're going to expect it probably is an inevitable that we're going to see price break those all-time highs. But I think from where we stand right now, it's going to be quite hard to really visualize where we could expect gold to go. Well, I think we need to wait for price action to sort of start when market opens up tonight at 10 p.m. GMT, and then we can sort of re-establish in our start of week technical analysis video. But overall, for our post-week market review, price has been overall bullish. The majority of the move was bullish until sort of Thursday kicked in, and then we just saw complete bearish momentum, complete bearish movement. We did also have some high impacting economic events that obviously had a negative effect on gold. So there's a lot of factors to take into account, but I do think we need to wait for a little bit more price action, see how the market opens up and see how price reacts to where it currently is, and then sort of re-establish our overall bias. So make sure you stay tuned for our start of week technical analysis, and then obviously we'll re-tap back in on our midweek technical analysis video, where we'll re-establish and sort of go over our overall bias. But yeah, sort of unsure where we could expect price to go from here. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for our post-week market review. I know not too much information here, but we've established a few more levels. We've understood what gold did last week, and that's all we can really do so far. We're not going to sort of force a bias when we're unsure. That would just be silly. So yeah, that's going to be our post-week market review. As always, I hope you have all enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I will catch you in our midweek technical analysis video. Peace.